his funeral and visit relatives from my father's side of the family, many of whom I had never met. We were gone almost a month. In some ways that was a good trip, a necessary and exciting trip, but in another way it was horrible. Thank you for the follow, Senyai. I hope you're enjoying your time here. Thank you so much for that follow. In some ways that was a good trip and a necessary and exciting trip, but in another way it was horrible. I was deeply in love, you see, with a young woman who was to become my wife 2 weeks after my 19th birthday. One night, when my longing for her was like a fire burning out of control in my heart, in my head, oh yes, alright, and in my balls as well, I wrote her a letter that just seemed to go on and on. I poured out my whole heart in it, never looking back to see what I said because I was afraid cowardice would make me stop. I didn't stop, and when a voice in my head clamored that it would be madness to mail such a letter, I would be giving her my naked heart to hold in her hand, I ignored it with a child's breathless disregard of consequences. I often wondered if Janice kept that letter, but I never got quite up enough courage to ask. All I know for sure is that I did not find it when I went through her things after the funeral, and of course, that by itself means nothing. I supposed I never asked because I was afraid of discovering that the burning pest meant less than her than it did to me. It was 4 pages long, and I thought I would never write anything longer in my life. And now look at this. All of this, in the end, still not in sight. If I'd known the story was going to be going on this long, I might never have started. What I didn't realize was how many doors the act of writing unlocks, as if my dad's old fountain pen wasn't really a pen at all, but some strange variety of a skeleton key. The mouse is probably the best example of what I'm talking about. Steamboat Willie, Mr. Jingles, the mouse on the mile. Until I started to write, I never realized how important he, yes, he, was. The way he seemed to be looking for Delacroix before Delacroix arrived, for instance. I don't think that ever occurred to me, not to my conscious mind anyway, until I began to write and remember. I guess what I'm saying is I didn't realize how far back I'd have to go in order to tell you about John Coffey, or how long I'd leave him there in his cell, a man so huge his feet didn't stick off the end of the bunk, didn't just stick off the end of the bunk, but hung down all the way to the floor. I don't want you to forget him, alright? I want you to see him there, looking up at the ceiling of his cell, weeping his silent tears, or putting his arms over his face. I want you to hear him, his sighs that trembled like sobs, his occasional watery groan. These weren't the sounds of agony and regret that we sometimes heard on E-Block. Sharp cries with splinters of remorse in them, like his wet eyes. They were somehow removed from pain we were used to dealing with. In a way, I know how crazy this will sound, of course I do, but there is no sense in writing something as long as this if you can't say what feels true to your heart. In a way, it was as if the sorrow was for the whole world he felt, something too big ever to be completely eased. Sometimes I sat and talked to him, as I did with all of them. Talking was our biggest, most important job. Sometimes, as I believe I've said, and I tried to comfort him. I don't feel that I ever did, and part of my heart was glad he was suffering, felt he deserved to suffer. Even thought sometimes calling the governor or Percy to do it, hell, was Percy's damn uncle, not mine, and asking for a stay of execution. We shouldn't burn him yet, I'd say. It's still hurting him too much, biting into him too much, twisting his guts like a sharp stick. Give him another 90 days, Your Honor, sir. Let him go on, doing to himself what we can't do to him. It's that John Coffey. I'd have you keep to one side of your mind while I finish catching you up to where I started. That John Coffey, John Coffey, whose eyes were always streaming